Hey everybody, how's it going? Today I have a piece of news for you that if I were not here to tell you, you would not know. You might not believe it if you heard it from anybody else, but I'm here to keep you informed. And I'm here to let you know that New York City is still overpriced. I know. Most of you out there probably don't believe it. You think, wow, no way in hell they have apartments for over $1,200 a month. No, we do, folks, we do. So it's really interesting to me. And again, I have gone over this in detail in many videos here. Over the past year and a half, the vacancies that were just like slowly starting to rise over the past few years just went full GME in January. As you can see in many of these videos, there are no shortage of places that are gone. And what I find particularly interesting is that in spite of the fact that many of the places, many of the small businesses, many of the cultural centers that really gave the city its vibrant feel, that made it what it was when I was younger, in spite of that going away, it doesn't seem like the demand to live here has waned at all. So this is from NBC News. It says New Yorkers returning to the office reckon with an overheated rental market. Ghosting, live bidding, long lines, and fewer apartments. This is what renting in New York City is like this summer. Jasmine Perillo, a 26-year-old digital strategy consultant who has lived in New York City for 8 years, has never found it as difficult renting an apartment as she has this summer. After one of her roommates moved home and the other moved uptown, Perillo began a 7-week journey at the end of May to find an apartment as her return to office date neared. After looking at more than 60 apartments, attending open houses where as many as 30 people showed up, and expanding her search to all of Manhattan, she found everyone was returning to the city and looking for a place to rent. She finally found a studio apartment in the West Village for under $2,500 a month. The lines ended up being everywhere. I thought it was going to be only downtown. But yeah, some of the crazier lines were on the Upper West Side, she said. Never seen a market like this. It's actually insane. For $2,500 in the West Village, I imagine she has 200 or 300 square feet, which wouldn't be much of a change from where this was pre-pandemic. And I'm going to take a wild guess it's in a building that's over 120 years old. As New Yorkers return to the city or arrive for the first time, with expectations to return to work or in-person classes in the fall, they have flooded the rental market looking for anything they can find. According to recent data from real estate brokerage Douglas Elliman, more new leases excluding renewals were signed in Manhattan, Brooklyn, and the northwest part of Queens last month than any other July in over 10 years, meaning that people are coming back to New York City, particularly it looks like the Manhattan area, in droves. Everybody who you speak to in the industry knows that this is a crazy, crazy market now, said Raymond Ghani, a real estate broker for Mizrahi Realty Group. I don't think it's ever been a summer where there has been so many people interested in every apartment that shows up. To be fair, rental prices for New Yorkers have yet to return to levels seen at the start of the pandemic, which, by the way, just in case you weren't aware, were fucking crazy. According to data from StreetEasy, Manhattan median asking rent hit $3,000 last month for the first time since July of 2020, but that's still below a high of $3,500 seen in March of 2020 before prices started to come down. And again, when we're talking about Manhattan median asking rent at $3,000, there's a lot of apartments in there in 120-year-old buildings, 300 square feet, put together like shit, looks like shit, we're not talking about super high end there at $3,000. But that's still below a high of $3,500 seen in March of 2020, before prices started to come down. In Brooklyn, median rent rose to $2,600 in July, a $100 jump since June and a $100 difference from the March 2020 high of about $2,700. Median rent in Queens rose to $2,200 last month, inching closer to, but not quite matching, the high of $2,400 seen in March and April of last year. On the other hand, rent discounts, once a pandemic staple, are falling. In Manhattan, rent cuts hit their lowest level in a decade in July. Some New Yorkers who anticipated this frenzied market tried to get ahead of the crowds and return to the city earlier. Sasha Manivsky, who works as an operations associate at the travel nursing firm Nomad Health, returned to the city in June to get settled in before she has to return to the office in September. She left the city at the beginning of the pandemic last year and moved to Iowa with her partner, who is from there. I think I got in at the right time, she said, referring to the price at which she rented her apartment. But that also means that renters are back in the city as the Delta variant takes hold and more companies delay their return to work dates. In early June, Griffin Cow, a product manager at Google, signed a 3-bedroom lease with 2 friends in the Gramercy East Village area. What? Okay, Gramercy is here, East Village is here. You're either in Gramercy or you're in the East Village. That doesn't make sense. This reeks of somebody writing this article that doesn't know New York City. That's kind of weird because this is NBC News. area after living and working from home for a year back in his hometown of Philadelphia, following college graduation in May 2020. Even though his office return was delayed from September until October, he is relieved to have rented when he did. I kind of wanted to, what? You really quoted that? I kind of wanted to, oh my God. Anybody hear this Frank Zappa song, Valley Girl? It came out in the late 70s, and it's really interesting because it's one of those few cultural staples that survived everything. It survived disco, it survived hair metal, it survived heavy metal, it survived grunge, it survived pop, boy bands, trap hip hop, the Eminem era. Man, that it really did survive much longer than I think anybody would have ever imagined. And hopefully it's only like 1 or 2 months. Big return. The renters who are returning now are facing a market with far more demand and less supply, according to StreetEasy inventory levels in Manhattan, the Financial District, East Village, Battery Park, Chelsea, Greenpoint, and downtown Brooklyn in July were below what they were during the same time in 2019. We are seeing rates for rental inventory dropping this summer a bit faster than it was 2 years ago, the last time when we had seasonality comparisons for July, said Nancy Wu, an economist at StreetEasy and Zillow. Right now, not only are we getting seasonal effects, but we're also getting the effects of people moving back to the city all at once. Ghani, who rents in neighborhoods like the Lower East Side, Soho, Nolita, Tribeca, Upper East Side, and Hell's Kitchen, has seen the imbalanced supply and demand pool while showing units declines this summer. Last year, we had, let's say, 500 apartments, but only 50 people looking. This year, we have 500 people looking and only 50 apartments, he said. Yep, so much stuff to come back to. There's so much stuff to come back to. This totally makes sense. I don't get it. Ignoring Delta. Even the recent rise in cases caused by the Delta variant has not stopped Ghani from receiving a flood of emails, texts, calls, and StreetEasy messages, which almost makes you wonder if most people care about it slightly less than they give you the idea of on MSNBC and CNN. But that's a topic for a whole nother video. Earlier this month, the broker said he received 99 inquiries via StreetEasy within the first day of listing a 2-bedroom apartment on Rivington Street in the Lower East Side, renting for $3,500. Becky Danchik, a real estate broker for Warburg Realty, who represents clients in Manhattan, is seeing similar trends. Earlier this summer, Danchik said she received 300 inquiries across 7 apartment listings in less than 1 day. Between last year and now, the rental market has gone from 0 to 100, she said. It takes me hours, not hours, it takes me like hours just to respond to people. Frank Zappa hit that shit like a nail on the head 40 years ago. He really did. Valley Girl, listen to it. Very interesting song. Wu noted downtown neighborhoods that young people are eager to return to are the most in demand. We are seeing that the inventory numbers in the East Village and a lot of the areas of downtown Manhattan are dropping way faster than they are in the Upper East Side, or even areas in Brooklyn. By the way, for any of you who want to see a walkthrough of the East Village, I have a walkthrough of 1st Avenue and 2nd Avenue in the East Village so you can get an idea of what is there and is not. But as here we go. It says, as neighborhoods with fewer young people remain less desirable, Wu recommended that aspiring tenants broaden their search like Perillo did. It's a very hard time for the market, she said, but it's definitely possible to research and see other neighborhoods and consider the trade-offs there. So this is interesting because I had hopes, and admittedly, I think many of my fellow New Yorkers who were born here, who didn't come here from another part of the U.S. looking to become famous or for the next opportunity in the music business or to work for some new fancy schmancy hipster tech company, I think a lot of the people who were actually born and bred here had this hope that maybe, just maybe, the pandemic would give people who were born here the opportunity to actually live here affordably again as people decided to go back home. And it doesn't seem like that happened at all. It seemed like some people left, but a bunch of people came flooding back. And what I find particularly interesting is that the people are coming back before a lot of the businesses are. Because, as I say, this is not a left-wing camera or a right-wing camera. This is not a camera with an agenda. This is a camera. When I walk through these neighborhoods and I show you all of these places that are no longer there, this is like, I'm not photoshopping this in. These are all dead stores in neighborhoods that have completely dead retail presences, whether it's their retail or their restaurants. This is not made up. You have all of these areas where there's just all these places that used to have businesses are gone. Yet you have an influx of people coming to the city, not just coming to the city, but coming to the city and paying top dollar. Again, over $3,000 for a dumpy apartment. Wow. I don't have any word for that. I just have painful noises because I was kind of hoping that this would lead to maybe a little bit of a renaissance once things became cheaper. And I don't think you're going to see anything become cheaper anytime soon. I don't think you ever will. I don't think that the retail landlords are going to lower anything, particularly if you see that there's all these people coming back, even if nobody can afford any of these spaces. I don't think that's going to matter. I think that the over 100,000 apartments that are available on the market at this point in time in New York City that have been vacant for really long periods of time will remain vacant because this will, if anything, will be justification that there's no reason to lower prices. I was really hoping for a short period of time that the city would get a little bit of humble pie here from people leaving because I thought it would make it more affordable. And once it was made more affordable, perhaps there could be some sort of renaissance of people living here that we're not spending, 90% of their paycheck on rent or their mortgage, which is a real shame when you consider just the amount of vacancy that we do have in New York City. But I don't think that's happening, and that makes me just a little bit sad because you always kind of hope that, when there's a forest fire of some kind, that it all kind of, turns into compost or something, and then, years later returns anew as a new beautiful forest. And here it's kind of like we never really even got over one of the main humps that is killing New York City as it is, which is insanely overpriced real estate. I think at the end of the day, the overpriced real estate is going to win. It's going to win. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. Are you looking at returning to New York City? Are you looking at spending $2,500 to $3,500 a month to have a low-end, small, old, tiny apartment in a city where all of the stores and all these cool businesses that gave the city its character are going away? Let me know in the comments down below. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I sure have. I got my humble pie right here. I sure have.